Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, your sunset safari on the, well, I've lost track of time. It could be 1876, it could be 2018. What cannot be disputed, however, is that that is an elephant, and you are on a live safari from the middle of the Sabi Sand Game Reserve. That is a spit of land on the far side of the Kruger National Park, an iconic space. 8.5 million acres of untrammeled wildlife wilderness wonderland. That's a triple alliteration, David. My name is James Hendry. On camera today is David. Yes, you see how I delayed that. Very funny. And in the final control today is Kirsten Macksmith. She's being ably assisted by First Officer C. Byrne of Vermont, United States of America. And on walk today, I was just wondering who else was going to be talking to you. A rare pleasure, of course. We're being spoken to by Stefan, and he is being ably assisted by Brian the Giraffe Joubert, and of course Herbert the Tracker with his very thin moustache. And it's very good to have him along as well. Please do talk to us during the course of the next 3 hours. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at wildearth.tv are the best ways to get hold of us. Now, my plan for the afternoon is to double cub it, and if not possible, maybe triple cub it. Basically, we're going to the lion cubs. We'll definitely find them. We're then going to the hyena cubs. We'll definitely find them too. Then we're going to go to Karula and her cubs, and then we'll go home and have a drink to celebrate. So that's the plan for the afternoon. You'll probably find, actually, because of the plan I've just made, that these will be the last animals we see. Anyway, there they are. A lovely herd of elephants here on the Gari Cut Line. You're most welcome. It's good to have you with us, and let's enjoy the wonders of this beautiful winter's afternoon. It's 26 degrees Celsius, which is 78 degrees Fahrenheit, if you still are working with that particular method of temperature measuring. And that's not a bad temperature for midwinter, I don't think. Not many parts of the world you can call midwinter 78 degrees Celsius. And the peace of the midday still envelops us. Now, David, there's something that sounds like a police siren behind us. Given our proximity to the nearest town, I think it's highly unlikely that it is a police siren. It's just over there, it's a bird going, "Choo! Choo! Choo!" And I don't know what it is. You hear it? I think it might be a slightly hoarse, grey go-away bird. Yes, it is, in fact. I've just seen one fly in there. Grey go-away bird, everybody, with a slight laryngitis. It is winter, of course, and that does affect the upper respiratory tract of all organisms, including the grey go-away bird. Let's get another look at these elephants, and then we'll start with the first of our cubs. Now, for those of you who think I'm actually going to show you 3 sets of cubs this afternoon, just be aware that I am being extremely fanciful. The possibility is there, the chances are probably less than 2%. That's not very good chances. There's one more look there, and it's a herd of elephants slowly eating their way through this thicket, and they're probably going to fetch up. If you keep an eye on the Djuma Dam cam, you'll probably find that they'll fetch up there sometime fairly soon. That's just across in a westerly direction from where that little elephant is feeding. Righty, let's go and see if we can find some cubbies, don't you think, David? Marvellous idea. We're going to go this way. We were drawn this way by the elephants, and they're somewhere in the next drainage line, we hope. While we go and look, let's head across to Stefan the Mystic Winterboer and find out what his plans for the afternoon are.
No, it's not an elephant. It's a massive marula tree. Good afternoon, good afternoon. I'm Stefan Winterboer, and you're on the bushwalk with myself and Brian, who's joining us on camera. There it comes, there it comes. You get out of the shot there, I don't want to steal its limelight. All right, now we are we've decided to put our nose into the wind this morning, or this afternoon, and we have walked west out of the camp with our goal to sort of walk west and then angle south, because that was the last place that Karula's tracks went into. And although we expected her tracks to cross out on Gowrie Main, her tracks haven't come out anywhere. They didn't come out at Treehouse, they didn't come out on Zoe's Road, and they didn't come out on Gowrie Main. So we think, Herbert, myself, Brian, we think that maybe she's got a kill in here somewhere. So we're in this block. It's a thick block. It's on top of a crest. It's the crest that separates the river that flows past Djuma from the Manyeleti, which is another river on the other side. So it's a bit of a watershed as well as a crest. Nice high ground, lots of thickets of strychnos, and a place where a lot of the grazers love to come and spend the day, because there's one of the few places there's a bit of grass cover. And I'm going to prove it to you just by having a look around over here. You can see that although not a lot, there is a lot more grass cover where we're standing than other places on the reserve. Now we are surrounded or flanked by these two ginormous marula trees, and one of the huge pluses about the Sabi Sands, of course, and that's where we are, is the marula trees that we have on this particular property. They grow to enormous lengths, and while Brian just tries and gets this particular one in frame for you, I'll give it some relevance by showing you exactly how big this trunk is. Now this one looks dead, to be quite honest with you. I don't think it is. But it's as I walked up here, you came across to come and find me and Brian walking up to this tree to decide exactly what it is. Now, I don't quite know. I'm seeing that we've got some termite activity, and the bark looks like it's split underneath this particular bough over here. And if you have a look at some of the terminal points of this marula tree, you'll notice that the thick branches have fallen off. And I don't quite know if it's an old tree that has been fire damaged, or if it's a fungal disease. So what I'm going to do is follow one of these lines over here. Now, this will give you an idea. The bark of a tree, quite honestly, is its armor. And the tree will shed its bark, as you can see over here, a chunk of bark has come off, and it does that so that it can get rid of parasites that sit on the bark, much like our skin does. But quite often what that does is it leaves the tree vulnerable, and you'll get a woodpecker, you'll get some fungus, or you'll get an insect that decides to bore in through this particular shielding, and that creates a problem. And where you most often find it is at the foot of the tree. And come and have a look down here, because we've got a hole here. And while I'm definitely not one to stick my face into every single cave and grotto that is at the base of these trees, this gives you an idea of now what's happened. This tree has had it's a vulnerable point. And now something has moved in there, but that's also allowed fungus and probably termites to infiltrate the core of the tree. Now, the core of the tree doesn't transport any nutrients. It's just there to give structural stability to this tree so that it can get up through the competition and steal all the sunlight. And that's why trees get big. But it has let some termites in, and you can see over here, you can see, I actually found one. There one goes there. Let's see. There we go. Now they're white because there's an orange one, a soldier. They're white because they don't contain any melanin. Now, melanin is what absorbs UV light and allows it to stay out in the sun. These don't have melanin, and for that reason they are white or bleached. And now they are busy eating, there's one there, they are busy eating this tree literally from the inside out. And that is what I think has damaged this tree, is we're seeing the telltale signs of termites. Now, Abhishek has just asked me if there's any medicinal uses for marula trees. Absolutely, Abhishek. These trees are widely used in a lot of different treatments. What we used to use them for, obviously, is the fruit. The settlers use them for the fruit. The fruit can be fermented into a beer, and that is obviously something to let the good times roll. So a bit of a psycho benefit, I don't know what else to call it, some good medicine. But the bark is also used. You can peel open this bark. Let me show you now. I don't think I'm going to be doing any more damage to this tree, but let me see if I can show you in here. It should be red. There we go. That red that you see over there is full of tannin. Now tannin was used to tan leather. So this strips of bark would have been boiled in pots of water, and leather would have been left to soak in it, which would have softened the collagen in the leather and given you softer leather. But we also use it on poultices. Tannin stops bleeding quite a lot. So you can use the inside bark of a marula tree, you can squeeze out the juice and you can put it onto a graze or a cut, and it'll have, it pulls in the capillaries and the blood vessels in it, and it helps to stop bleeding. But anyway, this is my big marula tree. I hope you enjoyed it with me. We're going to carry on and look for any more signs of karula, not marula, and we're going to send you over to James, who's got an update for you. Catch you later.
Right, we're not yet in the area of the cubs, but there were some alarm calls around here this morning apparently, and Aubrey, who was driving out of WildEarth, thought it might be a leopard. So we're going to look into all of the trees to see if there isn't a dangling warthog or some such, because we haven't seen Tingana for a while. I'm absolutely sure that he's fine, and I saw a picture of him that someone posted of him on Elephant Plains recently, which is an oddly far west of him to be, but maybe he's around here. It could be another leopard. I had an interesting query from Londolozi today, just asking for some information on Nkuhuma, because he seems to have taken up residence there, and he seems to be forging himself a territory already. Now, he is 3.5 years old, and that is very young to be taking a territory, and he was quite an aggressive little fellow, we know that, or sort of not aggressive, but he was well, he was prone to easily irritating, and maybe that has helped him to forge his way down there. And he's pushing out. Or there was a male leopard there called, I think it was called the Dudley Riverbank male, and he died. And now Nkuhuma seems to be taking on that little part of the territory that is on the Sand River, which I think is very nice for him. So I thought those of you who know him would be quite interested in that. And his brother Quarantine, of course, knocking about on Cheetah Plains still. And possibly because there are no other male leopards there. Other than his father, who used to traverse down there, and still does a little bit. But old Mvula is now nomadic. He's not holding territory anymore. He might again, but I think it's unlikely. Now, we are into the area where the cubbies might be, so anywhere around here, our first set of cubs of 3 we might find. Of course, I've really put myself under pressure now. Good question. Debbie in Vancouver, you say, how do antelope react, or animals react, when they see 5-month-old cubs? I'm assuming you're talking about Karula's cubs, who are just over 5 months old. Debbie, no, they won't alarm call at baby leopards. They would stay away because they could. Oh, there's a huge giraffe. It's very nice to see. Debbie, I don't think that they will alarm call at baby leopards, but birds do. Birds absolutely will shout at baby leopards. And while the antelope will be very weary of where mother is, I don't think that I've ever heard antelope alarm calling at little baby leopards on their own. Now, while you look at the giraffe, I'm staring up the drainage to see if I can't find evidence of lions. Apparently your lion cub sighting today was just the most spectacular. And if you weren't on drive this morning, and I know many of you in the United States, the hour of our morning drive at the moment, combined with your daylight savings, is a bit of a nightmare. But they were 3 of them, and suspected a whole lot more younger ones not too far from here, just up to the west of Buffelshoek Dam. I do see the oxpecker, David. Thank you very much. There's an oxpecker, everyone. Did you notice something unusual about it, David, or were you just...
It's very small.
Very small?
Yeah, that's all.
No, I think it's just hiding behind the central ossicone there. Standard issue oxpecker, red-billed. I thought it might be a yellow-billed, but it isn't. Now, a juvenile oxpecker, of course, has got no red bill. It's got a purely brown bill. You can see very well developed third horn, or median horn if you like. That's that calcification of the skull there. So he's a weathered old fellow, and he's had many fights in his time. There we go. Browsing away, and the browsers, I think, looking in far better condition than the grazers at this stage. There's far more to eat if you're a browser than if you're a grazer. Alrighty, let's move on up the drainage line here and see if we are very lucky. Signal might be a little bit dodgy in here, everybody. And so while we go through this area, Steph, with his amazing eyes, combined with Herbert's amazing eyes, has found you a spider.
And you are looking at a tiger of the spider or insect world. This is the land mammal equivalent of a Bengal tiger, an African male lion, a great white shark, a king cobra, killer whale, polar bear. This is the terror and nemesis of most insects out here. This is a Portia jumping spider, and she hunts other spiders. She actually will kill almost anything she can overpower, but her predominant prey are other spiders, and she can learn to hunt different spiders in different environments, because that whole cephalothorax, which is the head part of the spider, and I'm just going to twist her slowly so that you can see the top of the head. There we go. The whole part of that head is filled with brain. She has the largest brain weight to body mass ratio of any insect in the world, and is therefore the most intelligent insect on the planet. We're just going to turn her. Let me just get her into the sun. There you go. Have a look at those two eyes that are facing you there. That's to give her binocular vision. As the name would suggest, the jumping spider, they're very good at jumping. They use the jump to land in an area and catch prey. She also has two other eyes on top of her head, and I'm going to try and turn this a little bit so that you can see, if you can see, the eyes on top of her head. Let's turn her like this. She's obviously can see her reflection in the glass of the camera. There you go. Now she can't see the camera anymore, so she's going to calm down. Oh, there we go. Have a look at that articulation. They're not dangerous to people. Whoop! She's on the lens. That is incredible. She's now, let me just see if I can get her. Come here, little girl. Come on. We're going to bring her into shot now. She's on the lens now. You're going to have her walking across the front of your screen now. She's going to bite Brian's finger. All right, hang on, wait. Hold on 2 seconds for me. While you're looking into my face over here, I'm going to try and push her out. There we go. It's like watching someone perform an operation, a very delicate operation. Please note my funny facial expressions. And I have a habit of sticking my tongue out when I'm concentrating. Come now. There you go. Yeah. Don't worry, curious one. I'm also glad that this spider isn't as big as a tiger. Although, believe me, I'm wanting to pick her up, but I don't want to hurt her. They are soft-bodied. Come now, girl, don't. It might get a bit dark. That's my stick in place of my finger. Come now, come now, come now. Oh, not good. She's covered in these hairs. I don't want to make Brian nervous, so what I'm going to say is the spider is absolutely not poisonous, which of course she isn't, but because I said that, Brian's now very nervous. Oh, we're not getting this right. Come on. There you go. There's Brian. He's just making sure that I'm not playing too much with the spider. Gonna bite him on the finger. Come on, girl. There you go. There you go. No, man.
I'm just going to have to come with her.
She's just going to have to come with us. There you go. Let's her come with us for a bit of a ride. We got to put her down in the bush somewhere. Maybe she'll climb off then. Come along. We actually found her blowing in the breeze. Now, funnily enough, what happened to her is she bumped She must have jumped off from one stick to another and missed the branch that she was going on. And they have an anchor line. And we found her hanging from her anchor line, scrabbling up for all her silk. But what was happening was the wind was blowing. And she's so big that the wind was blowing silk out of her, and then she'd reel it in a little bit like a fisherman reeling in his line, and then the wind would blow it and she'd go out again. So we actually saved her, to be quite honest. Where's she now, Brian? We got her. Brian's got her by the thumb. She's saying hello, making introductions. All right, let's see if we can put her on the bush over here somewhere. My favorite species of spider is the jumping spiders, and of course they're also one of the most numerous because they hunt other spiders. Oh, Brian's got him. There you go. Brian's very brave. Nice one. Gonna jump again? She's gonna jump again. All right, let's see if we can get her onto the stick here. There you go, come on. There. Alrighty, we're gonna put her back in the tree. You can see that she's gonna be very safe. Let's see if she'll make another spectacular jump for you. Let's see if we can get, for those of you who've got the ability to record on your side, do it, because in slow motion you will probably not, now just because I wanted them to do this, no, come on. Come on. Let's see if she'll jump. Come on. Come on, you can do it. 1, 2, 3. Come on, go, go, looking around. No, man, jump. 1, 2, 3, here she goes. Almost ready, almost ready. Let me take her a bit closer. Still not. Come now, girl, you can do it. There you go. Now she jumps by pumping fluid. There we go, you got it. Well done. Alrighty, now we got you jumping spiders. Sorry, I took a bit long over there, but we got it eventually. Not every day you get to see a Porsche jumping spider jump. On that note, we're going to send you over to James, who's approaching Buffelshoek Dam.
Yes, I am approaching. I have approached, and I'm now static here at Buffelshoek Dam. Slightly disappointed because we didn't come across any lion cubs on the way here. We are going to go and have another look-see around the place where we think they were. Now, in the meantime, we have a number of buffalo bulls here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. And they are just lurking about here, indicating that there are no lions about right now. One of them has a very snoggy nose. That one there. Fortunately, he's got a cold. You can see that lovely sight of his mucus dripping to the ground. And then to the right of him, one of them has rabies. See, he's foaming at the mouth, David. That is not rabies. I'm being entirely facetious, everyone. All it is the fact that he is grinding all the time, and that all that saliva is creating a foam. Absolutely disgusting. And then to the left of that, and left again, there, will you just super zoom on that oxpecker? In the middle of the body. That's it, yes. I believe it is. It's a yellow-billed oxpecker, everyone. Is it? No, it's not. It's a red-billed oxpecker with its yellow eye. It is digging into the side of the flesh of the buffalo, which can't feel too nice. I don't think it's sort of ticklish, but it doesn't seem to be incurring the buffalo's wrath at all. And this is where the thought that oxpeckers are not, in fact, sort of symbiotically beneficial to buffalo all the time comes from. This is what they do. They keep these wounds open. Now, while that might have a slightly cleansing effect on the buffalo's wound, it definitely keeps them open. And, of course, the reason you have skin on your body is so that your blood and flesh is not exposed to the elements. And the oxpecker is not helping that situation here, loving eating the fresh red blood straight out of the buffalo, as opposed to having to ingest it through the medium of an engorged tick. Now, also here at Buffelshoek Dam, where although peace reigns supreme, there is quite a lot of activity. There is a hippopotamus. Bob, the bachelor of Buffelshoek, is taking up his natural winter position here at Buffelshoek Dam. You can see he is completely at peace. His eyes are semi-closed. He's just keeping an eye out for any intruders that might come along here and disturb him in his dam. Really suboptimal hippo territory this at the moment. Largely mud he's lying in, very little water left, probably only about a foot deep, if that. And then, I think the highlight of this Buffalo's Hook experience, there is a massive serrated hinged terrapin. Look at him. Ba-pow. There we go. Isn't that amazing? And he's just lurking there, loving the sun. He's a reptile, so he's obviously completely cold-blooded. And a chilly day, well, chilly morning, which has given way to a spectacular day, has got him out of the water, or perhaps out of the mud actually, and got him sitting in the sun warming his blood so that he can have a swim around and see if he can't find something to eat, something in the way of algae or other kinds of insects that might come out as well into the water. Isn't that nice? This is why we describe estivation and not hibernation. Remember that estivation is the thing that animals do here, or sort of cold-blooded animals do here, and it's largely to do with the dryness of the landscape, and it is quite dry, but at the same time, as soon as conditions are favourable, animals come out of that sort of temporary state of estivation and they start actually doing some work. They get on with a few activities. So that terrapin, because there's a bit of water and there's a bit of heat, will now go and see if it can find something to eat before going dormant again. So it's quite a nice little scene going on here at Buffalo's Hook Dam. Excuse me. My lunch seems to have had a little bit of gas in my belly, everybody. It keeps coming out. Sorry about that. Now let me just drive along here and we'll stop briefly again and have a look at this terrapin. Elic 07. Is that right, Kirsten? Right. Someone called Elic 07. I hope your mother didn't call you that, and if she did, I hope you're not friends with her anymore. Elic 07, you want to know if that is a turtle. It is not a turtle, but it is related to a turtle. It's called a terrapin, and a terrapin is a freshwater version of a turtle. Now, I mean, I think a lot of this is kind of semantics. Well, it's not, but I think to the unbiological in the States, if I'm not mistaken, just about anything with a shell on the bottom of it or on the top of it is called a turtle. In reality, a turtle is a sea-dwelling, what we call chelonian, and a chelonian is a reptile with a shell on it. And so in the States, often, you know, all chelonians are known as turtles. This one is a freshwater turtle, if you like, and it's called a terrapin. And then you'd call a turtle only the sea-dwelling, saltwater-dwelling chelonians. And they, of course, have to cope with much colder conditions than these ones because they're in the sea most of the time. They're in the water all the time. And they breathe. Remember, they don't breathe underwater. They're just like us. And dolphins and whales, they have to come to the surface to breathe. But they can hold their breath for a very long time. And then you get tortoises. And tortoises are purely land-dwelling chelonians. They don't go into the water if they can avoid it. Well, they do. They go in and they have a drink, and sometimes they lie in the water. But they don't swim like turtles and terrapins. Thank you, Elic 70, or 07, sorry. And Wayne, you're interested in, I mean, this is a very opportune moment to tell you a folk tale about hippopotamus. You say, do hippo eat catfish? The answer is no, Wayne, and the reason they don't, of course, is because, as far as I remember, what happened was that they used to live outside the water, but there was heavy competition, of course, from the buffalo and the rhino and the elephants and all of that sort of thing. And so the hippo befell on the good Lord and said unto him, Mayst I go into the water to dwell? And the Lord doth spake unto the hippopotamus, Yes, but thou must not eat mine catfish. And the hippo said, okay. And the Lord said, well, how will you show me that you are not eating my catfish? And the hippo spake unto the Lord, I shall spray my dung all over the bushes. And that, everybody, is why apparently the hippopotamus sprays his dung all over the bushes. And the Lord said unto the hippo, Good, into the water with thou. And that basically is the folk tale of why the hippopotamus lives in the water. So it doesn't eat catfish. That's obviously not why it doesn't eat catfish. It is a herbivore. It's a herbivore completely, and it only eats, it eats a little bit of water vegetation, but it actually does extremely little feeding in the water. Largely, it eats grass, and all around, sort of in a good rainy year, and if you go onto the banks of a river in an area like this, you find these huge lawns that have been cropped really nice and short. They look like the sort of first fairway at Augusta, and they are maintained by the hippo, who keep these grazing lawns. Of course, it's difficult to find them now because there's no grazing lawns around, because there's so little grass, because we've had a bit of a drought. But they don't eat any kind of meat, except in desperate times, and there are records of them killing sometimes things like springbok and animals that have been injured by crocodiles. Thank you very much for that question. I think I probably need to work on my folk tale there, don't you think, David?
Maybe,
Yes. Oh, and James Richard, do you want to zoom in on the terrapin's tracks? Well, we can try. I don't know if those are terrapin tracks that are just behind there. Let me just get my binoculars. You see that bits of mud there behind the terrapin there, David?
Yeah.
Ah, I can see some terrapin tracks. Yes, those aren't there. But if you go to the left, hang on a sec. Left a bit more, there. See that track there? That's the terrapin tracks there, James Richard, but they're not very well defined. We really need to find them in some sort of clayey sand, rather without the water, and then you'll get an idea of what the tracks really look like. And from a Chelonian, we're going to go across to a Hymenopterid with Steph.
Welcome back to a bit of a phenomenon. We don't know what this dazzling display of ants are doing. I have an idea about what they're doing. Now, if you have a careful look at these ants, you'll notice that some of them scurry about with their tails cocked. There's one there near the center of your screen. And that is called, or these ants are called cocktail ants. And cocktail ants farm aphids. They herd them together from all over a plant, and these aphids suck sap. And what the ants do is they tickle the aphid, which then releases a bit of sap called honeydew, and the ants then suck up the honeydew, and that's what they eat. But what the phenomenon is in this particular sense is the fact that some of these ants seem to have either their stings out on their tails, or they themselves are exuding some other type of, I don't know what you'd call it. But have a look at all these ants now. Now, ants belong to Hymenoptera order, which is the same order that bees and wasps belong to, and these particular cocktail ants sting. Not quite as bad as a bee, but definitely bad enough that you don't want to stick your hands in there. That's not what you want to do. And so the aphids get, although they get farmed, they also get protected. And the ants get honeydew. There's a little dark round type of aphid beetle thingy that's there. And you can see every time they go past one, they tickle it with the feelers. And some of them are sucking up the sap. Now, why honeydew gets produced is that the sap that trees produce in their leaves is actually quite nutrient poor. And so what happens is that the aphids suck in a lot of sap to get the nutrients that they need, but they don't want to get too big. So they exude a lot of sap out the other side, this honeydew. Keeping just what they need, they exude it out the other side. And the ants have now evolved to use the honeydew for their own nutrition. Isn't that something that's amazing, eh? And here we have, I think, cocktail ants farming their aphids. However, what is astounding for me is the fact that some of them seem to be bleeding out or exuding out a white substance out their abdomens, and I don't quite know what that is. So an unanswered question, which seems to be the hallmark of a lot of these walks that I end up doing, is I end up having a lot more questions than I have answers for by the end of it. It'll be interesting to see where these ants are actually going, because a lot of these trees actually provide a home for these ants. So they'll not only provide the sap for the, they not only provide the sap that the ants like to eat, but they will also provide a hole in a branch. And here you can see this bush willow has provided there's their nest inside there. So they're living inside this dried up twig. Now James Duggan, good afternoon James, you've asked me, do we get ant migrations here similar to the ones in the Amazon? James, because the sheer number, or let's say the biomass, because the sheer biomass of insects in the rainforest is so large, you do get much larger migrations of ants than you do here. But to answer your question simply, yes, we absolutely do get migrations of ants here. Ants will move their colonies every few days to every few weeks to every few months, depending on the ant species. But out here, the ants that we see the most are the Matabele ants. The Matabele ants are termite raiders. They raid termite colonies. They move their colonies, their whole gallery, 600 to 800 individuals. They move every couple of days. They move into an area, raid the termites block up their holes, their source of food dries up, and then they move the colony again. And we quite often see these processions, a couple of meters in length, of Matabele ants out here, a couple of meters. The biggest migrations that we get close to South Africa are those of the East African army ant, or the Siafu ant. There you can get up to a couple of 100 meters, and they've got a fearsome reputation for denuding the bush all over the place of anything. And then of course you get the leafcutter ants and the other forest dwelling ants. For the life of me, I can't remember exactly what they are, but even in North America you get the wood ant, I think, and then you get the leafcutter ant in the forest. You get a bunch of different types of ants in the rainforests that do move when they've cleaned an area of either vegetation or insect food. Nothing to that scale here, unfortunately. Although I must be honest, with the zoom lens that we have on these cameras, small things become large things very easily turning a microscopic ant into something as big as a leopard for you on your screen. Let's carry on with this walk. We've come through this Karen, good evening Karen, that you must be watching very late. You're all the way from Australia, and you've asked me, do we get huntsman spiders in Nkuhuma? Now, if you are talking about the huntsman spider specific to Australia that is so venomous, then no, we don't get that particular one. Our huntsman spiders here are called lynx spiders. Lynx spiders are a fairly large group of spiders that are free-living, that are nocturnal, and you find them in all different types of habitats, quite often carrying their egg sacs underneath their bodies. If I have it correctly in my memory, a huntsman spider, but definitely not the venomous one that you have on that side. Our venomous spiders here are the sac spider, the violin spider, the black button or black recluse spider, and the six-eyed desert crab spider, for some dramatic name. Just those ones are the only ones that we have here, and nowhere near as deadly as the ones that you have all the way in Australia. Now Wesley, you've just asked me a question. Will all these ants go on to, and I didn't quite catch the end of that, so I'm going to just ask Kirsty to repeat that again. Antelope. I have absolutely no idea what that was all about. So sorry. I can't answer your question there, Wesley. Oh, will they go on to the antelope? Gee whiz, sorry Wesley, it's my dummy ear. It's too much rifle practicing when I was younger. Would ants go on to antelope similar to oxpeckers do to clean off ticks? No, not onto antelope, but definitely onto birds. So birds have a behavior called anting. And what the birds will do is they go and lie on top of an ant nest, open up their feathers, the ants move onto the bird's skin, and then the bird shakes its feathers. And what that does is cause the ants to have a bit of a freak out, and they go, whoa! And quite often ants can spray out formic acid. The ants then spray out this formic acid as a defense. That formic acid goes onto the skin of the bird and is repellent to mites and parasites on that skin, on the skin of that bird. Isn't that amazing? So the mites then get full of acid, they release their hold, and the bird then rubs and sand baths the mites that have now come to the outside of the feathers to escape the formic acid along with the ants off, and they fly off having a bath. Called anting, that particular phenomenon. So eventually it led to quite a nice response there, Wesley. Excuse me for not catching that. All right. Oh no. Right, now we're going to climb up onto this termite mound, only because I enjoy climbing up on top of termite mounds. It's just something that we love doing. For me, it's just it's a question of gaining a little bit of height. And it also allows us to have a nice view of the bushveld around us. I think let's go up here and see what we can find. Now, I have a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, who walked on top of a termite mound and ended up walking onto a Mozambican spitting cobra. How's that for a horrifying name? That was basking in the sun on top of a termite mound. And so, although I love climbing up termite mounds, I normally always stop at the crest just before standing on it and look carefully, making sure that there are no Mozambican spitting cobras lying about. Now, of course, the chances of there being one are quite slim, to be quite honest with you. I think my friend Simon was just unlucky on that particular day. All right. We're coming out. It's quite interesting when you're standing up here, right? Is that you can see different types of vegetation. We've got quite obvious a band of trees in front of us that starts almost as if a line was drawn in the sand. And that is because those trees are terminalias, silver cluster leaf. For those of you who watch the show quite often, we'll stop quite often in the terminalias and talk about silver cluster leaves. Their wood is very resilient. It's also resilient to termites. It's hard and is used quite often in fencing posts or in roof struts or in farm implement handles. So things like spades and pickaxe handles is made from the wood of that tree. But right here in this particular instance, that tells me that it's a good place there to find some water. Those trees are very good indicators of water. And how you'd find water is you'd walk into a band of those trees down slope, and when those trees end on the downslope side is quite a good place to start looking for water. And water plants, little springs, mud wallows, copses of flowers, and of course my favorite, everything that is associated with all of those things, all the creepy crawlies that go with all of that stuff. So I think what we do is let's walk into that copse of trees and let's go see if we can see some remnants of a spring. There won't be anything now. We're in the grips of probably one of the worst droughts in living memory at the moment. Where we're standing right now should be not verdantly green, but we shouldn't be able to see our feet for all the grass, to give you an idea of what it should be looking like. We're just making our way through this little copse of trees and onto a game path here. Caroline, all the way from the US, and I'd have to say good morning to you, Caroline. Welcome to the show. You've asked me what do I have in my first aid kit. Well, Caroline, in my first aid kit we just carry a breathing and a bleeding trauma kit in our walk first aid kits. So I have a bunch of bandages, many bandages. I have gauze. I have a breathing bag in my first aid kit for two reasons. The most dangerous thing that we're likely to encounter out here is an elephant. And the thing that an elephant's going to do if you do happen to run afoul of one is plunge their tusks through your body, in which case no first aid kit on earth is going to help, or throw you around and kick you around a bit, in which case you're going to have a few abrasions and whatnot. And being able to put pressure on a wound almost always stops the bleeding. So even if it's arterial blood coming out, you can put a lot of pressure on that wound, you can get that wound to stop bleeding out. And so we've got a trauma kit for that in my first aid kit. And then the breathing bag which we carry is literally just for an allergic reaction to a snake bite. It's highly unlikely that we're going to get bitten by a snake out here, but it could happen, and because it could happen, we need to be prepared for it. It's one of those things that can change your situation very quickly. A broken bone, you can get a car here, fall down a hole, whatever the case may be, we can make a plan. But you have an allergic reaction to a snake, you can stop breathing very quickly, and then there you have that breathing bag, pump those lungs full of oxygen, get some help here, get onto a helicopter, off to hospital. Well, on that macabre note, and I hope I answered your question over there, I'm going to send you over to James, who's got an update for you.
Oh, but I don't have an update for you, everybody. We've fossicked about where the cubs were this morning. There is some seriously thick bush in there. I don't think we're going to be able to get in, I'm afraid. We're going to give it a go around the side, but I think that it's so eyes we haven't seen them before, especially the new little ones, and yeah, I just don't think we're going to be able to get in there, I'm afraid. They're right in between. You can see the drainage line going up that way, you can see the drainage line going this way, you can see, I don't know if you can see, but there's some tracks from vehicles trying to get in here during the course of this morning. In fact, those are Rusty's tracks, and what they tried to do was stick their heads in here and decide whether they could get the vehicles down through there. I'm not convinced it would be impossible. Let's just stick our heads down. If our signal gets a bit dodgy, I apologize. Don't fall out. Ooh, Sisyphus on Sisyphus on the VR rig. Shall we try this, everybody? I think we should. Hold on tight, there's going to be a large bump. We might get... Why not? There we are. Oh, that was relatively easy. We're okay so far. Let's just lock the differential, put it in low range. And we'll just drive. I don't think we'd be able to get, whether we'll be able to get out or not to be answered. No, we will not be able to get out of here. This is why Jamie is rather clever to do precisely what I have just done. You see, this is why women guides are so much better than man guides, because they're not fueled by testosterone and ego, they're fueled by brain. Especially in Jamie's case. Oh lordy, that was very close. I nearly died, everyone. I hope I feel quite she's also nearly stabbed in the back by this thing, David. The wilderness nearly stabbed me in the back. It wasn't very nice of it at all. Hold on tight, everyone. We'll make it out of here, I hope. We're not going to go the same way we came in. It was very scary, everybody. I was very scared indeed. I thought I might be destroyed. David, the wilderness is about to stab you in the back. Be careful. It's probably the story, the folk tale I told about the hippopotamus that the wilderness is upset with. We should be able to get out. What we're going to do is do one loop around and see if we can't see something from the other side. Then I think we'll call it quits, because she'll bring them out onto the road at some stage. Probably not today again, but maybe a little bit later on tonight, and then we'll go and do a loop around and see what else we can see. Come down to Buffelshoek Dam. It's been quite a hot day. I mean, 78 is pretty warm for this time, any time of the year really. That is very heroic of me. Right, while I recover from the wilderness trying to kill me, let's go to who has found, I think, one of the most amazing things you can get out.
Yes, can you imagine we've managed to re-find this pot that we found during the recent Father's Day shows. I found this pot by accident. We got chased up here by some buffalo, and I was standing exactly where my hands are here, and I looked down between my legs, and lo and behold, found a pot. And it actually has sparked the most amazing reaction, not only from all of you viewers out there who've been wanting to know exactly what it is, but also a debate within the camp with the owner of the company, Mr. Yuri Moorman, and everyone debating whether or what this pot is. Now, there is the pot. You can very clearly see that it's this is the top end of the pot with the bulb here, and then it's got decorations on it, but it's broken. There's a shard there. The pot itself is broken under the pressure of the termite mound. And here's the story that I have so far for this pot, is it can be one of two things. It's either a treasure pot. Now, obviously, in days before there were banks, people used to bury their treasures in termite mounds. They used to dig a hole in the termite mound, put their treasures into a pot, and then the termites would cover that hole and would hide the contents of the pot from the naked eye, and of course only the person who buried it would know where it is. There's also another thing that says that ancestors are appeased by beer being buried into termite mounds to appease the ancestors. So this could have been a beer pot that was placed by a family living in this area years ago, and as an appeasement to their ancestors. And then there's a third theory that is unlikely, but it could be that this is a burial ground for a person, that this is a person's buried here, although that particular theory has been discounted by not only the family that used to live on this piece of land, but also by the owner of the reserve. So this, as far as what we know, is that initially I thought that this pot was up to about 800 years old, and although pottery in this area has been dated at 800 years, these lines here, the decorations on these lines, mark it at something in the last 200 years, as far as what I can gather. This is a clay-fired pot, a homemade pot made of clay, relatively thick, and I think it's a beer pot because inside there is, I don't know if it's just my eyes, you could perhaps tell me, is that dark? To me it looks dark. The more I wash it, the darker it gets. And beer pots, needing to be fairly waterproof, were often fired a lot longer than what food pots were, and it gave it this black inside, this burnt inside. They needed to be waterproof for that. So it's all the markers are likely that it is a appeasement beer pot and not something containing, as I've just said to Brian, I think a diamond the size of my fist over here, which I'm hoping it to be. But anyway, we're not going to take the pot out. What we're going to do is leave it in situ for a while. The process now is to find the family members, the elders or the tribe elders of the family that live in this area, and they need to come with me here, and probably the owner of the reserve, to come and see this particular site, and they need to recognize this site as either a burial site, which is unlikely, or they need to recognize this as an appeasement to their ancestors, in which case we may not touch this pot will stay exactly where it is. But if they don't, then if they say that this may be a treasure pot, then a discussion will be had with the landowner and the people who live on this particular piece of land, the family who are inherently part of this piece of land, and they'll then decide if they leave the pot there or if they take it out. So we're not going to do anything with this pot. In actual fact, I'm going to cover it up as best I can. Try and camouflage it. And that's because I don't want anyone to come and dig over there and show disrespect to this piece of pottery that's inside there. Like I said, these things can be relatively sensitive. And the last thing we want to do is go step on some cultural toes here. What we do, at least me for instance, I enjoy learning about things but without touching them. Alright, and that's that. Glad you got to share that with me in actual fact. We weren't aiming to aim at this pot, I must be honest, but we did anyway. It's nice that we got to find it again, against all odds. We're still looking for Karula. This is the area where her tracks were last seen, going in this direction here. While we make it through this little grassland that we've got here, I'm going to send you through to James, who's got an update for you.
Look at this, everybody. We decided to just stick our heads in here and we got very, very, very lucky indeed. Isn't that spectacular? 3 little cubbies. And just one female. Now Aubrey thought he heard another female and some more cubs in here. And I don't know where they might be. But this is spectacular. All I saw, everybody, was just the pom-pom of the mother's tail. It's just too wonderful for words. I will now try and take a rank average photograph of them. David, the chances of my getting a photograph at this distance. Ah, yes, not very good. Now, what they are, everybody, is about... Dave, what does the focal distance on that thing say?
We have it at 18 meters.
So they're at 18 meters away from us, just across the drainage line. Very sweet indeed. Now, that's a horrendous photo. I love lion cubs. I think they're my favourite kind of little creature. Mainly because they make such very nice sounds when they're playing. And they're always playing when they're not asleep. Or when they haven't been disturbed by a vehicle driving in here. I think they were right in the bottom of this drainage line. And all we saw was the backlit pom-pom of Mum's tail there. Isn't this wonderful? I can't believe this. Ah, well. I just wish those cubbies had a more definite kind of future ahead of them. It's not easy being a little lion cub, you know. 1 in 10 of the males will make it. Probably about 3 in 10 females. And of course, at least these guys are born to they're the first cubs born to the new coalition. So it's unlikely that the Birmingham boys will be tossed out before these chaps are at least 18 months to 2 years old. It's the ones after that, you know, when those Birmingham boys are reaching the end of their tenure. But because they're young, they may well, you know, hold their territory for longer than the 2.5 to 3 years. But it's the next cubs that would be the ones that are greatest at risk from infanticide. Look, 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 here we go. See how close they're lying to each other? That bird you can hear, that kind of plaintive sound, is the sound of the southern boo-boo. Dave, if I go back, do you think you'll get a slightly better view?
Slightly.
Let me just go back a little bit, everyone. Say when. I'll just leave the engine running. How's that? Perfect. I haven't seen lion cubs, everyone, since the Styx Pride cubs, who were subsequently murdered by the marauding Birmingham boys. It's totally typical, of course. And these are my first ones then. Oh, Dave, I just took a picture of the one turning round. Yes. So I got a picture of its bottom, blurred because of the movement. I think that's a lovely shot of the mum there. And do we know which Nkuhuma lioness this is? It's the one with the longish face, isn't it? Saying to me too. I'm very bad with my identification. Yes, it is. So I know our signal is not too fantastic here, everybody, but I'm afraid there's naught we can do about it. I could go back a little bit more, but I think we'll just stay here for now as they start to play. Let's try and sex them as well. We'll try and find out what they are. That looks like a little female. Yeah, Kathy, I noticed this with those two leopard cubs. You say even at this age their paws are huge. They are. They are probably already pretty much the size of Karula's cubs, at least Karula's tracks. And I mean, they are now, what, 6 weeks old maybe? Look at them biting each other. I think our nest that we're looking at there, from what I can see behind her tail. Definitely. I wonder if we couldn't get around that other side there. We'll watch them for a bit like this, everybody, and then when you next go across to Steph, I'll just see if I can't get around, but this is a pretty good view. Abhishek, nice question from you, and I'll give you a nice easy way to remember it. You want to know when they're going to wean, basically when they'll stop doing, which they're doing now. It's an easy one to remember because it's 6, 6, and 6 as far as I remember. 6 days until they open their eyes from birth, if I'm not mistaken. 6 weeks until they're introduced to the pride. 6 months until they start to wean. That's how I've always remembered it. Now, I wonder if this wouldn't be an opportune moment to try and get another view. Virginia, you say the cub at the back looks quite a lot larger than the other two. No, Virginia, I'm 90% sure that they are almost identical in size. Look at that. And I think the only reason they look slightly different, I think it's probably a perspective thing. It is possible that there's a male cub and he's slightly bigger than the others. But you know, this age, much like with human beings, you know, they're not much smaller than they're not really different sizes. Now, what I want to do is just zoom in on my little map here. We're not going to be able to spend all afternoon here, I'm afraid, because there's a great deal of activity on the reserve, so we're going to stay here for as long as we can. Yeah, we're going to try and see if I can check the map and see exactly where we are. And then we'll decide if we can move or not. But my phone is not locating me on the map. She looks exhausted, as most mothers do, you know, after looking after 3 children. There we go, I found us. Yeah, I see, this is interesting. I think to get to the other side of that drainage line, we'd have to come in from Warri Pan Road, which is a road quite far from here. Right, I've made a map. I'm going to try and move here. If we don't get another good view, I'm going to suggest we go around. Paul, Paul, that's one of the major reasons lions roar, is to contact each other. And so she will just roar loudly, and the others will roar. Really well.
Alrighty, James is is just repositioning and trying to juggle, trying to reposition on those beautiful lion cubs that you're so lucky to see, and trying to find some signal. Well, we've come into, I promise you, I've never been into this particular area before. This is a brand new place for me at Djuma, and the first thing that is apparent is it looks like a meteor impact crater. You can have a look. Literally everywhere where we're looking now are these mounds of sand. As far back through the trees, have a look at that. All the way through the trees, there in the distance are these mounds of sand. And I don't actually know what they are about. I have an idea that we're standing on a warren of an aardvark colony, probably spanning, from the looks of things, several hundred years. But quite often aardvark will come into areas like this of deep sand on top of these crests, and their tunnels will collapse underneath the weight of the roof. And so what happens is you get these aardvark making tunnels. They're strong enough to dig themselves out of a collapsed tunnel. They then dig and boom, it collapses, and so you get this landscape. And that's what I'm hoping to try and confirm with you by walking to the first hole that we've got right here. And these in a vehicle should be like minefields. You drive your car over things like this and you go into one of these holes, and not easy to get out. Now this is a collapsed one. I would actually imagine, I'm going to walk where I think the tunnel went. I think the tunnel went in here and went along here, and then through where I'm standing at the moment. You can actually see I'm standing in that depression right here, and then the exit tunnel would have been there. So aardvark burrows can quite often have more than one entry and exit. They use it to get away, and I think that we just seen this sort of oxbow shaped tunnel. Whoop, I even fell in one. Okay, so it caught me on. We got a spider web on the lens. We're just going to clean it off for you. Part of our jumping spider's anchor line. Let's carry on with this exploring. It's actually phenomenal. Have a look over here, and it just gets, I don't know if it gets fresher, but you can see there's a lot of sand that's been excavated here. Have a look at this pile of sand that's been excavated out of this thing. At least a foot. Now you're standing at the top of it. You've got another foot underneath where you are at the moment. And then here we've got some more. And there looks like a fresh one right there. I can see because the sand is a different color. So you can have a look right through there. We've got a fresh one. Now, I'm talking loud, and I'm going to pick up a stick and throw it in there, because quite often warthog love to live inside these things. And what I don't want is a warthog to come shooting out of that burrow and think I'm the cause of its stress, because quite often they come out and slash with their tusks, those big teeth that come out of there. You don't want to be standing anywhere close to that. So let's approach with caution. You can actually see, since Brian is about 4 times taller than me, you'll actually probably see in there before I do. But have a look. Yes. And this is definitely the freshest of all of them here. Come here and come and have a look at what's... You won't be able to see the aardvark, of course, but have a look at this mountain of sand. This is what's made up in this area, this mountain of loose sand. This is the sand that makes up the crests. Have a look down there, and we've actually got an aardvark in residence, and I'm going to show you how I know that. On the right hand side wall of this particular warren is a fly. Now if you look inside there, you'll see these big fat flies on the right hand side there. There, you got them. Go in to the right, up a little bit. Just in the bottom of the screen, those dots. There we go. Go right, a little bit. There, you've got 2 of them. Now those flies suck the blood on aardvarks. And I'm almost sure that those flies would be so specific to just the aardvarks in this area, you could probably classify them by their I don't know, by the blood that they carry inside of them. So what the aardvark does is he goes inside there. The flies know that if the tunnel collapses on the aardvark, they'd be stuck. So they wait at the entrance. They wait at the entrance for the aardvark to come out. And the aardvark comes out in the dark. And then they jump on top of the aardvark again. And they spend the evening sucking its blood and foraging with it. And that's how you know an aardvark is in residence. So I know there's an aardvark inside of this tunnel. Isn't that amazing? Now what I could do is probably stick my head inside over there if I had a head torch on. What you don't want to do is go in there with no light on, because quite often these holes are also inhabited by porcupines. As you all know, porcupine running at my face inside of there in the dark, not going to be very friendly with me, and don't want to stick my head in there. But I'm fairly certain that there's an aardvark inside there. Isn't this just wonderful? And probably generations of this aardvark's family have been living in this area, digging these tunnels. There definitely isn't only one aardvark's excavations here. And living over here, I don't know, decades, who knows? Just lots and lots and lots of things here. Let's go and have a look over there, that hole there, and see what we can find. Just such an interesting place. Gracie, age 8, has asked me if animals would eat that type of treasure that I found. I presume you are talking about the flies that we found in the bottom of this thing. Gracie, no. Oh, the pot, excuse me, the pot of treasure. Excuse me, Gracie. It depends on what was kept in it, you know. What is one person's treasure is another man's junk, or however that saying goes. I'm sure Brian is wanting to correct me over there, but it goes something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be worth any money, it just needed to be treasured by that particular person. I'm sure you have some treasures of your own, and you want to keep them safe, or you maybe want to savor the memory around them. I'm not too sure. And that's what could be in that pot that we found there, someone's treasure. Quite easily so. It doesn't necessarily have to be diamonds and gold, although that's all I'm really hoping for inside there. Right, and here we have the other side of that tunnel. This one's collapsed. Trying to see if we can see. This is a termite mound. So now we know why the aardvark was here, and that this is where he's getting some food from. This must be a massive harvested termite colony. I mean, this must easily be about a hectare in extent. Now, a hectare is probably 2 football fields big. And we just sort of going around over here. You can see that there are old excavations, even here amongst the monkey thorn trees, even down there. Just wherever I'm looking, I'm just seeing these mounds of sand. Very interesting. An aardvark community, ant bear community. Oh, James Richards, you're asking me some questions over here, and I'm gonna try and guess at them, because I don't see aardvark enough to actually know. You know, James Richard has asked me about how many babies aardvark have. Are they altricial? Are they precocial? Good question there. I don't see aardvark enough to retain that type of knowledge. I'm sure I used to know it at some point in my junior guiding career 20 years ago. I haven't had to recall that fact since those days. So what I'll do is I'll throw it out there back to you. You're welcome to help me. Please help me. I'll share it with James, and anyone else who doesn't know, you're welcome to send the answers to questions@wildearth.tv using the emails or the hashtag Safari Live, and I'll see if I can share it with you between now and the end of drive. So the question is, how many babies do aardvark have, and are they born precocial or altricial? In other words, are they born blind and helpless, or able to join their parents from straight after birth? I would imagine that with holes like this, they would probably be born blind and helpless. Watch out for the branch. Blind and helpless, and I would imagine because they're born blind and helpless, there wouldn't be one baby, there would be more than one baby, and I would presume that there are anywhere from 2 to 4, maybe up to 6 little babies, 2 to 4, maybe up to 6 little babies born altricial, and that is what I would probably say, although like I said, I'm going to leave it up to you to answer that question and get back to me. This looks like it is also inhabited. Doesn't look like it's inhabited as fresh as that other one, because you can see that there's a lot of leaves here, but along the right hand side there you can see that there's definitely a tunnel. Roger's just asked me if we can see an aardvark track, and you know, Roger, I've been looking since I got here. I've been looking for an aardvark track to show you, and I don't. The sand here is so soft it's not holding any pattern. And I'll give you an example of that. Let me take my fingers like this and just push it into the sand. An aardvark has got 3 toes. Just like that is what it would look like with some nails in the front. That's what an aardvark track would look like. But today's so windy, have a look what would happen. This aardvark came into these holes literally last night at around about 3, 4 o'clock. The whole day's been windy. Look what happens to this track when I blow on it. Disappears. And that's what we got to work with, not much. So I've been waiting to see if I can get you a track here. I haven't seen any, and it's we'll get there eventually. I just need to find myself some finer dust in an area that doesn't have as much loose sand, and I'm sure I will be able to show you one at some point. What's telling me that it's aardvark is the fact that there are so many excavations. The fact that we saw those little blood-sucking flies at the entrance to one of those holes, and the fact that these holes are just dug everywhere. This is like no other animal will do this. Only aardvark do this. We're going to try and wind our way through here. Rain has asked me if I've ever been injured by an animal that has come out of its burrow. Rain, no. I'm lucky I have quite an overactive imagination that imagines my femoral artery being cut off by slashing tusks, and because I have this picture in my mind, I stay well clear of holes that have things that can rush out of them. So I'm normally a little bit overcautious. So no, I have had a cave growl at me. That was probably the scariest cave experience I've ever had. I stuck my head into a cave without announcing myself with a loud voice and throwing a stick, and the cave, this darkness, basically growled at me with a very deep bassy growl. To this day I still don't know what it is. I don't really want to know what it is, and it cemented my caution quite firmly. Brian, you've asked me, do aardvark run away or do they stand their ground when frightened? So I've seen aardvark twice in 20 years. The first time I saw an aardvark was for 5 minutes, and he was ambling along at a shuffle because he was on a tar road and we were in a car behind him, and I'm sure his shadow and our lights and the noise of the car were bothering him. He was shuffling, not standing his ground, but also not running away panicked. The second time I saw an aardvark was luckily on foot in the Kalahari Desert, which is on the western side of South Africa. And we were lucky enough, it was midwinter, it was quite cold. Aardvark come out in the daytime in midwinter there because the evenings are just too cold for them. And we were lucky enough to see him from far away. The wind was blowing and we snuck up on this aardvark. And I spent an hour watching this aardvark, digging for termites and snuffing around, completely oblivious to us being there. So I can't actually answer your question. They are relatively big. We're looking at about 80 pounds for a very, very big aardvark. I'm talking about an animal that's this size, my torso, and double the thickness. They're relatively big, with massive claws on its front legs that it can use to dig with, and a big tail. They've got a tail that's probably about this thick and about this long that they can whip around. The tail itself not going to do anything, but those digging claws and those very powerful arms for digging into the sand can absolutely do some damage. That being said, I know Tingana, I think, has got a reputation here for devouring aardvark. He's obviously knows that he can follow one, and with a bit of a struggle he can get one that provides him with a lot of meat. Now they just eat termites and ants. In actual fact, they are the, I think in the world, except for the giant ant bear, they're probably one of the world's largest termite eating animals. They only eat termites. And anyway, but that's on that. We're going to kick ourselves into low gear here to get through here without sinking Brian neck deep into one of these holes with his backpack on. And James has managed to reposition himself, so you're off to the cubs. Enjoy.
Reposition, everybody, is a great understatement for what we've done. And the cubs are now in the sunlight. We can see them there. We have pulled off some quite hairy driving, to be honest. They're there in the middle of the thicket there, and I think we're going to sit here for a little while and see if we can't get a nice view. There's Mum. Mum is not looking at us anymore. She has no care about what we are doing. The cubbies are just to the left-hand side of her. Just now they've gone behind that termite mound. Have you got one there? There we go. I think it's going to be worth sitting here, everyone. You know what? We probably would have had just as good a view from the other side. I was just very worried that a lot of people were going to come into the sighting, so I thought we'd better try and have a look from here, especially as if they come into the sun from here. Well, then we'll have a real show. So I think we'll just wait here for a little while. Hello, Gracie. You're just 8, of course. You must be nearly 9 by now. Gracie, you say, do these cubbies stay with their mama all the time? Yes, they do, Gracie, until the males are about 2.5. Then, like Junior, they get thrown out of the home. They have to go and look after themselves. But the cubs, the female cubs, will stay with their mum forever and ever. Go ahead, Ev. Ephraim, go ahead. This is nice. Here we go. I've just arrived here and I've relocated on the southern side of the drainage. I don't think you're going to get your car in here. I think your best bet is to go off central and follow the tracks in there. I think you'll get a view from, if you just follow those tracks in, I think you'll get a view from central. So make your way, make your way in on those tracks. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, fantastic. Ah, wow. And there was some nyala coming towards this area, everyone. Oh, there we go. That's what I was hoping for. Come on, lift your head up again. Let me take a rank average photograph so that David can crit my efforts. This is fantastic. Isn't it just amazing, everyone? This is such an honor, I always find. To spend this kind of time with little animals like this. They're obviously suckling. It would be best if she turned round, of course. But we'll make do. Aqua, nice question from you, and there are 2 answers to it. The first, well, your question, first of all, is, do they acclimatize better? They don't seem to be afraid of us. They don't acclimatize better. They certainly will become more habituated to the vehicles more quickly because their parents are. You see, the mothers are absolutely completely habituated to us, and so they will habituate quickly. But it's also that this is not the first time they've seen cars. They've seen plenty of vehicles. Remember, they've been on Torchwood for some time, and she was in a position where the vehicles used to view them extensively. And so this is not their first rodeo, as it were. They've seen plenty of vehicles, and so yeah, that would have habituated them. But they'll take the cue from their mother, and so as long as their mother is not panicked by us, so they will stay completely relaxed. Ah, what a joy! Hey, Steph falling in termite mounds and aardvark burrows. Here we are with lion cubs. 26 degrees Celsius, gentle wind from the north. Gosh, it's just a marvelous, marvelous day. Hello, Lily. You're also aged just 8. I wonder if you too are about to be 9. Lily, you want to know, you're in New Mexico, which is different from Ohio. You want to know when Mum will start taking them to the kills. Well, pretty soon, from about 3 months they'll start to eat meat. Look at their spots on the tops of their heads there. Isn't that a great picture? And that's to hide them. And listen, they're starting to make noises. So Lily, from about 3 months, she'll start to take them to, well, in fact, even earlier. 6 weeks she introduces them to the pride. And from then, they may or may not go towards the kills, but probably not. But 3 months, definitely they'll be eating meat. Look at those spots, just like a leopard spots to start with, and they all fade with time. Oh, wow, look. Dave, I obviously missed that photographic opportunity. Oh, look. Kevin, nice question from you, to which I'm not entirely sure I know the answer. You say, do the lions listen to them? You say, do the lion cubs come into the world one after the other, or is there a sort of rest between them as they're born? I don't think there's much of a rest, no. I think she gives birth pretty much one after the other. And they're suckling now very, very actively, and of course they are going to get, they'll probably start playing once they've finished their milk, and then with any luck they'll play this side in the sun. Well, that's where kids should play, isn't it? Very, very lucky we are. I don't actually think we would be seeing them from the other side. I think they'd be behind this bush, and obviously their heads completely turned away from us. At least we've got some ears now. And spots. And listen to them. Can you hear them, everyone? I love the sound lion cubs make. They make this sort of, I know you can't hear them at the moment, they go, you'll just have to take my word for it for now. Yeah, I can't get any closer than this. Well, I probably could. Davey, just look over the side, I don't worry, I'll do it. There's a very large stump there. Jonathan, yes, the answer to your question is, you want to know if those spots that you can so very clearly see there are a defensive mechanism against them, against predators and things during their early years. Or not their early years, their early months, absolutely. You know that a leopard has got spots so that it can hide in the dappled light that the woodlands of this area provide. And that's the same reason that those lion cubs are that colour. They can hide inside the drainage lines under the shade and be almost invisible. But when they're big, you see, there's no point in them maintaining those markings, because they're so big and obvious that the best thing for them to be is that tawny colour, especially in the winter time. It's the perfect winter colour for them to be. Just a little ear or two there. You can see that's Dave's shadow there that is slowly making its way over the top of that lioness's back. I'm going to give them another 3 minutes, and then I'm going to try and move slightly. I don't think we're going to get a better view than this though, everyone, but we might be able to sneak slightly further around the corner. What I don't want to do is frighten them and make them go off into the drainage line, because then the game will be up. She looks pretty well fed to me, so I wonder if she didn't go off last night and have a feed. But they're very contentedly having a suckle. She's lifting her head now, listening. Janet, you want to know what my nicknames for these beautiful cubs are going to be? Well, Janet, I don't know. I haven't managed to sex them yet. We know we've got one lioness. Maybe we should name them after, if they're all girls, I think we should name them after the girls in the final control. So we can have Kirsty, Louise and Jerry. Rebecca is on leave, so unfortunately she misses out there. We won't do that. Maybe we should actually. If they're 3 lionesses, that's definitely what I'm going to call them. But if they're not, I don't know. I think we need some gangster names. Lions for me are not the royalty of the bush. For me, lions are the gangsters of the bush. So if there's a male, we'll call it Al. And females? Female gangsters, Dave? Can you think of any? See, there are inescapably few female gangsters for the same reason that Jamie didn't try and drive down that drainage line today. They're not fueled by idiocy like I am. Okay, I think we're going to try a little maneuver here. We're going to do it very subtly as we can in this car. Ah, I see I have a pimple. There we are. Okay, my pimple's gone, everybody. Magic. We're going to just ease our way around there like that. And I was just saying to Ephraim, you may have heard me there, he wants to come and look at them. I don't think he's going to get those big Land Cruisers in here. You know, that's the one advantage of having a small car like this. There are no other advantages, but it's the one advantage of having these Land Rovers, is that they are littler than the other cars, and that means we can get into areas where they can't. We also, of course, don't have 6 people on the back of the car squealing every time you drive them through a knobthorn tree. I've just got David, and he doesn't squeal, he just grunts. It's going to be a little bit of a maneuver, this. We'll hit something now. Are you ready? Bump. Brian, very nice question from you. When I try and sneak around here, I'm just going to watch her behavior, see that she isn't threatened by my activity here. The covers are looking up. Brian, sorry my girl, I won't be long. I'll shut up shortly. Brian, give me a second, I will talk to you now. Unfortunately, my maneuver has taken the sun off them, but that's okay. So, Brian, you want to know if the Birminghams have cubs with other prides, like the Styx pride. Will they eventually form one consolidated pride? No, absolutely not, they won't. They don't do that. Lions, they are not related to the Styx pride, or not very closely, and they don't meet up like that. They don't have a situation where they are able to sort of make a giant pride. It's very unusual. And in this area, 3 to 5 lionesses is the optimum sort of size for a lion pride to be, and so that's basically what happens. And the Birminghams, remember, are not ever part of the pride. No male is part of the pride once he's left. So like Junior was here until he was about 3, I think 3.5, and he was part of the pride, but that was his natal pride. He's now left this pride. He's formed a little coalition, and he will no longer be part of a pride. He's now part of a coalition, and he will dominate. Hopefully one day he will have 2 or 3 prides that he looks after, and that's basically how it works. So the adults are not part of the pride. The males are not part of the pride. Now, if you want to be slightly amused, you can see what I mean here. Here comes Ephraim, and Ephraim's guests have now got thorns hanging from just about every piece of their heads. Stop there, go backwards. I can see him, he can't see us. Back a bit more. Yeah, now you need to head basically, if you look to your western side, straight into the sun, you'll see me. And you need to make your way basically straight towards me if you can, and you'll get a view from the other side of the drainage. Yeah, I'm waving at you. Okay, Okay, yeah, just come straight towards the sun. Go a little bit backwards and come down. If you follow my tracks, you'll get in there. Not easy, much easier when you don't have 6 people on the back of your car. There you can see us. He's got about 12 people on the back of his car. There they are. And he's right next to me here on my left hand side. So just keep coming forward, and if Alright, while I get Ephraim into this position, everybody, let's go across to Steph and see what he's got.
What an absolute treat those cubs are giving you. I'm just listening to Kirsty giving me some updates about them suckling and now waiting for them to play in the sun. Very jealous. We have got the moon. Or no, as close to it as what you can get. It's just nothing, devoid of all life. We've decided to walk at pace across it, but it's only because I want to go and see the old den site of the hyenas. Now, when I started here, which was in March, April last year, the hyena site that is right here was active. And since then, it hasn't known another hyena that we know of, but we don't really come here until we know there are hyenas. Obviously, the hyena den off of Mvula Road and the one off of Aubrey's, I think, is active, and we're seeing a lot of good hyena activity there. But very often, these satellite dens in a hyena clan's area are used by female hyena that are not as high up the social ladder. So hyena dens all over the clan's territory will get used, but they'll be used by subordinate females. Let's go and have a look. I don't know what's there. No tracks here. It's just literally you caught us wandering through the bush, and it's a point of interest, and it's a good place to go and have a look. So we're going to carry on wandering through here. The hyena den, I think, is that termitarium that you're seeing through the bush right there. That is where I think it is. I'm going to have to cross here. Not too far away, a couple of 100 yards. Now what I am doing is I'm keeping my eye open for anything scurrying away. Hyena definitely do not protect dens. They're not like leopard or lion, which will stand their ground at a den site. They will very often just scatter. And the reason for that is because hyenas are diggers. And it's a much safer thing for a baby hyena, to actually scurry away into the den, and they do little sub-tunnels that they can climb into that not even adult hyena can climb into. Much safer. Mother leaves in a flash that panics the babies. Babies go into the hole, into their little caves and into their excavations, and not even leopard can pull them out from these particular places. So what I'm looking for here is that scurrying, that mass exodus of hyena. But because this isn't an active den, it'll probably just be one, if we're lucky. Let's go down here and go and see. It's been such a wonderful afternoon of exploring. All right, but I think give us some time to get to this particular termite mound while we do it, to see if there's anything there. Those lion cubs have gotten mobile again, so you're off to James.
James.
We're live. Hello everybody, I'm sorry I'm not getting your communications at all from Sister Kay. They're in the final control. Lucky I didn't make any swearing noises, because I nearly did to get in here. There we go, she's back. We've just moved forward and we've got a lovely view of the little one there, and one or two to the left of that starting to play. This really is the furthest we're going to be able to get in here. Now I'm going to sit here for as long as we can, but I think that Aubrey's trying to get in here, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get there. Isn't that sweet? Look. I've just got to help again other people to get in here. Just enjoy this wonderful sight, everybody, with a tiny animal. Oh, look. I did relocate. Ephraim is one side of the drainage. I'm the southern side of the drainage, western side, sorry. I don't think there's access for a Land Cruiser in here. I managed to get this little Land Rover in, but I'm not sure that there's access for a cruiser. Aubrey's going to try. I will move out as soon as he gets in here from Goripad. Look at it. It's so sweet. I took a picture, David.
James.
I've no doubt you'll think it's horrible. They are too sweet, everybody. We are so lucky. So lucky to be here. Isn't that sweet? I can't believe it. I just think lion cubs are my best. Okay, I'm just going to help Aubrey to get in here. Just enjoy, everybody. We're not going to be able to stay here for long because once Aubrey's in here, I don't think that we're going to be able to stay. Look at just sleeping there on Mum after a heavy suckle, and will most likely start to play just as the sun goes down. Now, we won't view them after the sun goes down. In fact, I'm afraid, like I say, we're going to move fairly soon from here. Then we'll move on to our second cubs of the day, the hyena cubs. And, well, we might be lucky with Karula, but by then it'll probably be dark. Marcel, you say the cubs' eyes blue when they first open? Yes, they are. I think they change very quickly. I can never remember exactly how long it takes for them to change, but they do change. But they are blue when they're open, yes. Look. Now, what's unusual there? You see how that cub's nose is plain black? Maybe they go pink, but I would have thought they were born pink. I'm just going to help Aubrey a little bit here. Now, to get a vehicle in here is just a nightmare, especially if it's a huge one. Poor Aubrey can't get that big cruiser through here. Now, Jesse, a nice question for you. Now, we've obviously been watching for a while, and you know that George and Charlotte, we separate from each other by their spot patterns, and they've got different coloured eyes, and you want to know how do we tell the difference between these three lion cubs. It'll be very, very difficult. You can count the whiskers underneath the nose, but that's just, you can't do it quickly. So if you've got a photograph, you can do it, but it's almost impossible unless they're lying still like this one, you could do it. But the others you couldn't. So, one identifier there, very black nose, that cub. Whether the others have the same nose colour, I don't know. That will change as they get older, but for now it might be quite a good way to identify them. Oh, yes. Very tired. And I'm very glad I'm not in the final control right now. Apparently there is great squealing. I'm not sure why it is that there is great squealing whenever there's something cute. But this is lion cubs for me. Too much cuteness. That's not to say I prefer them to George and Charlotte, who are my best friends at the moment. So tired. Debbie in Vancouver, a very nice question from you. Do I think that more social cubs are perhaps slightly more curious than the solitary ones like the leopards. So for example, would they come and approach the vehicle more than, say, leopards would? I think the answer, Debbie, is yes, but I don't think it's because they're more curious. I think it's because they're more confident. Remember that as social animals, they can afford to take far greater risks than the solitary animals. And so those leopards, which are almost exclusively solitary, well, not from birth, but as soon as they go go independent, they just are not able to take risks, and so they don't take risks. And I think that just means that they are far less likely to become confident enough to come and look at vehicles. Risk averse is a leopard, unlike a lion, which tends to be not very risk averse. Aubrey, I can actually see you. Well, I can see the bushes moving. Yeah, just keep coming straight there. Keep coming in that direction. Poor old Aubrey's guest. They must be absolutely terrified. It's not Aubrey's fault. They'll be well rewarded when they get in here. I wonder if we'll ever get out. Look, suckling again. There we are. And that might sound like a herd of elephants, but it isn't. It's you know what's so difficult about getting in here, everyone, is the trees that the elephants have left all over the ground. What a wonderful sighting. Sometimes all is right with the world. Look into those ears, very clean ears there, David. You see that? Do you think this mum's got a supply of Q-tips? I think probably. You would imagine so. I mean, any good mother would. They are the best. They are the absolute best. And I'm sure many of you are taking very beautiful screenshots, and thanks for doing that. That's good news. It's always nice to have those as a record, and I love scrolling through them. I always scroll through them after a drive and check out what we actually saw as a reminder, because my own photographs are so blurred I'm unable to tell what we saw. There comes another one now. Let's go to the left slightly there, Dave. There we go. There we go. James Duncan, they'll lose their spots in about 3 months' time. You say, why do they lose them? Well, just like I was saying earlier, they don't need them anymore. Remember, when they become big, their greatest defense is their incredible size. And when they're little, their greatest threat is being discovered when their mother is away. And so that's why they're coloured like leopards to start with. I failed to get one decent photograph. Soon. Now here comes Aubrey. I'm going to wait for him to stop and then we will move out. So just take your last screenshots and enjoy. Look at that. Now you can see they relax. You can see they've been around vehicles quite a lot. And they're just starting. Oh, I think there's a male there. I think I saw a male. So I'm going to go with one male and one female here. The noses all seem to be pretty black, you know. There's one. Yeah, they're all not quite pink yet. All the eyes are the same colour. There is a bit of movement now. I think we might actually be able to stay a little bit longer. In fact, I think we should move now. Ah, yeah, Minjan. Hey. Alright, you didn't get a go. Alright everybody, take one last look at that fantastic cub and we'll come back here, hopefully, to see her tomorrow. Just find out from Kirsten if she's able to go to Steph, because our departure from here is not going to be pleasant. I think I've lost her again, Dave. Oh no, she's still there. So just give us 1 second. We'll set Steph up. Oh, that's wonderful. I might have to try and take one more picture. Don't go anywhere, cubby. I think I got a shot, David. Oh, thank you. Okay. We're just waiting for the bushwalk pack to come back. It's been away apparently. Or the signal's gone down or something. And then we're going to press on out of here. What an astounding joy this has been. Alrighty, let's go across to Steph, say bye-bye to the cubbies, Louise, Jerry and Kirsten, of course. If there is a male, it can be Jerry, I suppose. Let's go across to Steph and we'll see you shortly.
I don't quite know what James was getting at with one of these cubs. If it's a male, it can be Jerry, but I'm sure there's some other type of sick humor going on over there. You caught us having a look at an antlion colony. Now, antlions are exactly that. They prey on ants by ambushing them with a pitfall trap. The ant comes along and scrabbles up the side of these pitfall traps, and then antlion, if he's in residence, flicks sand up. Now, of course, because it worked once with me last week, I naturally expect it to work every other time. Let's see if it's going to work with this. Let's see if it'll work with this one. No, I must be honest with you. These things have fascinated me since I was a young boy. And my son, who's only 4, just turned 4, since he was 2 years old and knew about an antlion, they have fascinated him as much as what they've fascinated me. He's even quite adept at catching them, I must be honest. But nothing in residence here. And that's probably because the ants in this particular area have moved away. Now, these antlions do follow ant colonies. They don't follow one colony, but when an ant colony moves away and there's no more ants, they need to move on. The reason for that is quite simple, is that they catch ants to build up a lot of metabolic energy in terms of fat. And what they do then is they pupate, and they pupate in the sand, and they come out as something that looks remarkably close to a dragonfly, but flies around at night, called a lacewing. These very floppy insects that you find festooning grass in the wetter areas around here. Look absolutely fantastic. They go from this grotesque little tick-like thing with big pincers on the front to this flappy, flimsy, fairy-like creature that flies around. It's actually quite an amazing transformation, these antlions into lacewings. Now, behind me, while I was just here, I've just heard some birds fly into these trees here around us. And I'm just trying to see where they are. They sounded like they flew into the tree right here, but that's not the case. See this dry tree that we've got in front of us here? I actually thought it was a woodpecker, but it isn't. And of course, the bush is dead quiet around us at the moment. Brian and I were just having a talk about how dry it actually is where we're standing at the moment. And you know, I keep on saying, remember what it was like last year in May. Remember what we looked like when we started this drought in October and went through December, and we had those couple of rain sessions that came here late in the season, and we had that grass flush, and then the trees were in full bloom. And look what it looks like now. We're now getting into our dry season. From the 1st of July is when I like to say, sorry, 1st of, is it July? 1st of July or 1st of June winter? 1st of July, August, no, 1st of June, July, August is our winter months over here. And this is our dry season. Still not the driest time of the year. The driest time of the year comes in our spring, September, October, November. You're going to see what this place looks like in those times. I tell you, dust bowl. Don't know where these animals are going to get their food from. I don't know what's going to happen to them. I don't know how far they're going to have to move to get food. So, James Richardson, Bianca and Aaron have answered the question for all of us about those aardvark babies. They just have one baby at a time and they are altricial. So for all of you out there that are following that amazing segment that we did a couple of minutes ago, probably about half an hour, 45 minutes ago, that was inside where we had all those excavations. We had a question from James Richards who wanted to know how many babies aardvark have. And I thought that they had anywhere from 2 to about 4, maybe 6, and that they were born altricial. I was only 50% right. They are born altricial, which means that they are heavily dependent on their mom at birth, and they only have one, which is weird. Because when animals are heavily dependent on their mom, barring human beings, it generally means that they are born almost fully formed, in which case they are able to function quite soon after a birth as sort of mini versions of the adults. Very similar to how wildebeest calves or horses, for that matter of fact, if you're looking at a horse paddock close to where you stay, baby horses are just miniatures of the adults. Very soon after they're born, they are able to copy what the adults are doing. That's called precocial. Altricial is how we are born. We are born blind and helpless and really need a long time to grow up. What's rare in this aardvark's particular case is that they have one baby that's altricial. Generally speaking, it's either precocial and one baby or altricial and many babies. So that's quite bizarre. I would never have guessed that. So thank you very much for providing those answers. It's always nice to share answers with everyone watching. Now we are about a mile or so as the crow flies from quarantine. We're actually going to show you quarantine. Right there in the distance on the horizon, those trees that you're looking at through the screen of trees, that big tree just off center to the right, that is the start of quarantine. And we're heading there to get out of the bush before the sun goes down. Now, a very good way of checking how much sun is left is you take your hand and you put your baby finger on the horizon and you spread your fingers as much as what you can. And basically in midwinter, I have timed the gaps between my fingers, so the distance the sun travels from there to there at about 13.5 minutes. If I take my hand and I put it like this, we have got roughly 7 or 8 minutes to sunset. So start the counters. Let's see how right I am. 7 or 8 minutes. From now, I expect the sun to go down. And that gives me a nice sort of time on how quickly we can get across this valley and get our way home. But while we're waiting for that 6 or 7 minutes to go down, I'm going to send you over to James.
Well, that was a spectacular way to spend an afternoon, I feel. We're going back towards Buffelshoek Dam now to see if we can't pick up on some buffaloes that we saw coming down. There was a herd of buffalo coming. There were also some tracks of a male leopard coming in this direction. So maybe we'll see him. Not sure who that would have been. Well, there are 2 buffalo in the water. I don't think they're from a herd. I think they're part of the original 8 that we saw. Let's just breathe quietly here and absorb. I'm going to go a little bit further forward, sorry Davey, because we'll be able to see the sun setting. There we go. Beautiful. Doesn't that feel nice, everyone? Take a deep breath in. Inhale the pleasant scent of the African evening, mixed with the gentle smell of buffalo dung and hippo dung, which of course, as we know, does not have any fish bones in it. That being the deal that the Lord and the hippo made together. Now this of course will become doubly scenic if the predicted deluge ensues during the rainy season. This dam will become very full, and then, well, I mean, we may have whales here. It'll be so big. But if we don't have whales, we may well have more hippopotami. Now, Abshik, you are interested in hippopotami and how long they would be able to cope without water. Abshik, not very long is the answer. They can survive if they can get out of the sun, but they really do desiccate quite badly. In other words, they get very dry in the presence of the sun, and it becomes very difficult for them. And so they can survive. It's not a situation like it is with, say, a whale or a dolphin, which obviously becomes dead if it's not in the water for a long time. They are certainly not nearly as aquatic as whales or dolphins, but they do struggle when there isn't any water, and even this one will be struggling with his back exposed consistently to the sun. They overheat. They're not built to stand all the time, because you obviously use very little energy when you're just lolling about in the water. And so for them to be out of the water all the time is very difficult and very stressful for them. All right, I don't think we should hang around here. I want to try and quickly get a look at the hyena den. We're not that far from it, so I think we're going to move along that way. I'll just give you a quick look at the sun as it is about to set. See, my face was looking very gold there. That is not my generally inherited complexion. That is, in fact, the golden African sun setting to the west. Marvellous, marvellous afternoon. Right, I've put my jacket on just in case we get a little bit chilly. And we're not going to watch the whole thing go down. We're going to move on and try and get to the hyena den. Hold on, everybody. Here we go. There was a herd of buffalo heading sort of towards this area, and they would normally come and have a drink around about this time of the day. And buffalo don't mind water as sort of scummy as that. That's not to insult the water at all. It's just what happens when it starts to dry up in this area. Elephants, however, you will find not many. All right, we're going to drive quite quickly towards the hyena den. Let's go back to Steph and let him see, or let him show you, the sun going down.
Thank you very much, James. It's very gracious of you. It is 2.5 minutes into our 6-minute prediction between the sun going down. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you, but it's already started to touch the horizon through the bush there. I reckon we've got maybe 60 seconds or so. Now, what I will do is show you an elephant while we can. Have a quick look through the bush over there. Just see his foot. He's now disappeared, of course. That is exactly what they are prone to do. We've got an elephant. We're surrounded by elephant. Not surrounded. We've got them on one side, probably in a 25 or 30 degree arc around us. Through the gap there. We'll wait and see if another one comes out. Brian says he's got them for you through the trees there. Now the wind, luckily for us, is blowing. I don't know which way it's blowing. Actually, that's a very good question. I've thought it's been in my face the whole afternoon. Use this ash bag, yeah. And luckily for us, the wind is very slightly blowing downwind. And we'll be moving downslope. We'll collect in this valley that's between us and the elephant, and will probably be pulled by other air down the valleys. That's what happens over here at night time. Air starts to cool down above us, and it'll start to sink. And as it starts to sink, it starts to collect in these depressions, the coldest air, which will then move down, and it sort of pulls the air down with it, down slope. And we get winds, not when it's swirling and very gusty, but definitely on a quiet evening like this. Let's have a look here at the sun. It doesn't seem like it's moved at all. In actual fact, it seems like the earth has stood still while we've been talking about that. Now, in actual fact, the sun has already set. It takes 8 minutes for the light from the sun to go from where it's made or produced to inside our eye, and then for our brains to talk that into a picture. So 8 light minutes is where we are from our closest star, and from 8 light minutes to 4.3 years is that what the closest star to us is. That's Alpha Centauri, our closest star. That's the closest neighbor that we have, 4.3 years versus 8 minutes. Isn't that amazing? Sun's going to go down now. We've got probably another 20 seconds or so of watching the sun, the last sun of the day. And it's quite amazing here. We're in our winter. It's not really a winter. I mean, I'm standing here in shorts and a t-shirt speaking to you at sunset. It's more like a dry season, but it does get cold. It's insane. The second the sun goes down, it seems like the temperature drops. It almost feels like it drops a degree a minute, versus exactly the opposite. When it comes up in the morning, it also feels like it gets infinitely colder as the sun rises. It's almost like your body expects it to be warm because the sun is up. You can see it setting there behind those trees. Gone. Now it will be interesting to see how many minutes are we. In actual fact, we are exactly 5 minutes and 50 seconds from when I predicted the sun setting, when I used my finger technique like that. 5 minutes and 50 seconds ago, and I said 5 or 6 minutes. So we hit that one on the spot, predicting when the sun was going to go down. My finger technique. Brian did laugh at me, but didn't believe me, but it's been proven to all you doubters out there. Brian's just asked me while we wander through the bush over here, trying not to get squashed by those elephant, what are the chances of finding a porcupine? Brian, relatively good actually. You just got to go out at night time. There's a lot of porcupine here. We find their tracks all over the place. They are nocturnal though. I know the porcupines at my house come and visit between 7 and 8 o'clock at night, where the majority of the tracks I see laid down before midnight. And I know that because quite often there's a lot of insect tracks on top of their tracks at my house. So we get the porcupines visiting our house between 6 and 7, and I would imagine that they would be out this time of the year around about the same time. You do see them. It's not like you're going to see legion of them. You see them in pairs and singly here in the Sabi Sands because they do get eaten by lion and leopard. We don't see groups of porcupine here. We only see single porcupine. We do find a lot of their tracks around, so they do definitely occur. Now we've got those ellies slowly coming to us, which means that I want to walk in that direction, and we're going to go through here. We're going to see if I can actually show you these elephants. We should be able to show them to you straight through this gap. There we go. Right there. Caroline, you just asked me what are the procedures if these animals decided to charge at us. What do we do? Caroline, obviously the best thing to do is never run away blindly. Generally with me, I tend to stand and shout as loud as I can, and then as soon as that animal stops, I will make distance and create distance. That's all that animal's really doing. When an animal charges you, they're just telling you to create distance for whatever reason. Sometimes though, you are way too close, and even moving can elicit a more aggressive response. So it's difficult to say that in every circumstance you do this or in every circumstance you do that. Generally, at quite a low threat, what you want to do is create distance. Secondly, at a medium to high threat, you want to stand your ground, shout at them, and then create distance. And thirdly, if you've got nowhere to go or if you're way too close, you stand right there, you don't go anywhere, and you let that animal create the distance. And that is the scariest ones to deal with, where you know you can't move. That elephant herd, not a sizable elephant herd, we're looking at probably, oh, there's a beautiful cow coming through there. You can see a cow or bull. You see that one, Brian? Walking with his head bouncing. Long, straight tusks. Quite nice. It's funny, you know, in the last 4 nights, I've been making phone calls around this time of the evening, and there's been elephants on quarantine every single night at sunset for the last 4 nights. I wonder if it's not exactly the same herd. Can't be. I mean, interesting to know. Watch out here, Brian. This thing will bite you. Have a look at these thorns. They don't look like much, but let me tell you that can flay the skin of a man very quickly. This is the black monkey thorn, and will rip you open. Let's cross over here and see if we can see those elephants from a little bit closer. I feel quite safe where I am at the moment, and that's because I've got a drainage line in front of me. I've got a drainage line in front of me right here, which provides me with a barrier of sorts. I'm standing right next to a termite mound and we are far away from those elephant with the wind in our favor. That'll definitely change if those elephant had to all of a sudden come onto this bank with us. What we don't want is those elephant to cross this bank and to chase us. Don't even know we're there. So it has watchfully. Right, these elephants with me. Side anything else. These elephants have now changed their behavior, not because of us. They've probably just decided that they want to go in a different direction. And what we've now got to decide is, do we cross onto the open area before they get here? And I think that's exactly what we're going to do, because it's going to just get darker. So come with me, Brian. We're going to be picking up the pace a little bit. And the reason for that is I just want to stay in front of these elephant and I don't want to get caught in this thick bush. Now let's jump onto this game path. Going to be a bit jarring as we go down here. All right. And while we get through this thick bush, not try and run away from these elephants, but just to try and get in front of them, we're going to link to James, who's racing off to a sighting of some sort. How exciting.
Everybody, we are racing slightly. If you look behind us, which I don't want you to do, there's a massive cloud of dust. Just here, we've given up on the hyena den simply because apparently at the Gallagher waterhole over here is a male leopard, rumoured to be Mvula. We're on our way there. We're about 1 minute from arriving there, maybe even 30 seconds, depending on how rally-like my driving is. But I don't want him to move because I think he was spotted by someone in the camp. I don't think anyone's actually there with him. There's a disturbing whining sound coming out of the the right back tire. I think that's because something from that sighting has got stuck in it. It's going, sounds like a cricket coming along with us. And let's just ease our way around here. We might be lucky. He may have moved. Sun's just dipped below the horizon, so the temperature will start to drop. And then, as we all know, the leopards go a-marauding. Or at the very least, wandering about the place. Alright, here we go, everyone. Deep breath in. Oh, there's actually someone there. It's Ephraim. Eph, have you got visual there? Oh dear. Ephraim got here with an unbelievable speed. Eph, have you got visual there? I don't know if you can see him. I think he's gone into the bush there. It's very, very thick in there. Oh, it's just round about where we live, everyone. So he was sitting on this termite mound over here, and someone from the camp spotted him, called Ephraim, obviously on the phone, because I don't think they have a radio there. Eph, have you got visual? Sorry, I'm not copying you. Can you try again? So Ephraim can see him. But he is in some serious stuff here. You got him. You got him. Okay, shall I go forward, backwards? Oh, I see. Okay, I can see him now. Well, we can see his bottom, everybody. Mind looking over the top of me? There we go, everyone. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to them. but everybody seems to be Mvula, although with his back turned, well, it's difficult to tell, but I think that's what he is. You can see his mangled ears, bearing testament to a long life. Well, for a leopard, 13 years. And he's just flicking away the sounds. Now, we are right close to the Gallagher camp. I can't hear the final control. There we go, now I can. And while you look at Mvula, we'll just sit quietly and enjoy him here. He looks like he's looking at something, but he's there we go. And I'm just going to talk very quietly because we are with a whole lot of other people. Alright, let's quickly go across to Steph for his closing, and we'll stay right here with this beautiful leopard.
So as you can see, we are on the other side of these elephants now. They were marching right at us, and we stopped and looked a couple of times, and they were coming straight at us. We had to do a bit of a loop, a duck and a dive, but they've stopped in that thick vegetation behind me now and are feeding, just slowly feeding. So still completely unaware that we're even standing here. And it's given us the opportunity, at least for me, to say thank you for watching this afternoon, or the sunset safari with myself, Stefan, and Brian on camera, with Herbert looking after us, and has allowed us to join it with these ellies. Now we just got this youngster coming up to us. We're going to have to get behind some screens and make some space. We don't want to make his mom too angry. Now, we'll catch up with you again in the morning. We're going to go back to our little nest, our den site, and at least James is sitting with Mvula, and hopefully we'll wake up for you. So, bye-bye.
We're just gonna, oh, he's moving, he's up. I think he's seen something, everyone. We're just gonna wait. I'm gonna go backwards. He does look like he's going into the drainage. I can't get that on reverse. We have done some serious work on the vehicle today. There, it was a nyala. It was a little nyala that's run away from him. And it's alarm calling, you can hear it. Going, go! Let's just see if he comes out. I don't see him. Oh, no. He was just in there, everyone. We could stick our nose in there, we will. Let's just wait for him. I'm just going to wait until they see him, everyone. We don't want to move around too much because we don't want to ruin any chances he might have of hunting. I'm just going to ask Orbs if you can see him. Confirm he's mobile, Orbs? Yeah, he's moving down that way. We'll just try and get a quick view through here, and then we might have to move the other side. Yeah, he's moving along the drainage line here. Now, you know, as much of 4x4ing as we've done today successfully, that is going to be a step too far. He's going along that way like that. I think he'll probably pop out on the power lines just below our camp. We are only maybe 150 meters from our camp. And we're going to go and try from the power lines. That's what Aubrey reckons we should do. Okay, copy. Do you think I must go to power lines, or do you want me to come in there? I'm just getting an update from him. I can't move backwards because everyone's trying to get out. Let's go. Oh dear. You know what? We have a fairly large problem, everybody. The power steering fluid is finished. There's a very nasty looking light on. That means that I've done something quite drastic. Oh well, I have no power steering now. Da war my power line. Okay, we're going to go to the power lines, everybody. We're going to try and go to the power lines. I mean, yeah, we got a steering issue here. And I've lost the final control. I'm going to just drive this car into a drainage line and burn it. There we go, I've got you now, Kirsten. Alright, it's still turning. Just takes a bit more muscle, that's all. It's not really surprising. Hello Robin, a nice question about whether if quarantine manages to take over at Cheetah Plains, i.e. if he sort of takes the territory there, and I don't think that's, well, it might be imminent actually, because I don't know of any other male leopards in that area other than Tingana. You say, will he let Mvula stay there? It's not so much a question of tolerating another leopard. Remember, they won't spend any time together unless they try and steal a kill from each other. But Quarantine stole, at least Mvula stole a kill from Quarantine the other day. So Mvula is by no means down and out. It's not like he needs looking after by any stretch of the imagination. So, I mean, would he tolerate having his father around? Yeah, he probably would, as long as his father wasn't being territorial. But Quarantine's too young to be territorial at the moment. So they'll just kind of tolerate each other, I guess, for now. But they're not going to have a sort of comforting father-son relationship. And that's obviously because it's around about here we thought he might pop out. It's obviously because they're in competition. There's no benefit to them being sort of nice to each other, really. They are in competition for food and resources. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to make this steering last for the duration of the drive. But I'm afraid it might be that we have to close down a little early. So I do apologize if that does actually happen. Now, we thought he was going to pop out over here, which means he might go towards Quarantine clearings. Let's ease our way down here. That's in front of us. You can see where we live. There we are. So there's a male leopard close by to home. He was coming through here. The drainage line that he was in is over here. I'm just gonna, yeah, I don't know. We'll just keep an eye out here. I don't think we're going to see him again, I'm afraid. At least we did get to see him. We've had an absolutely astounding afternoon. Now, this is not scenically the most beautiful place, of course, but let's just wait a second. See if he doesn't pop out here. I'm just going to update Aubrey. Aubrey, I'm at the power lines junction of the drainage. I've got nothing here. Yeah, you can see the stealthy leopard could easily just pop out either behind us or as soon as we turn our backs, and we'd never know. There are some warthogs that live in this burrow, and you can actually see some fresh tracks there. But Mvula, you do not see. Yes, I think it's probably someone we work with. There comes the bushwalk returning home. It is Pyjamas Patterson waving at us. Brian. There we are. All in their free Safari Live t-shirts. That's very good. That's very patriotic of them. Okay, I'm afraid I think this we're going to have to give up on. But doesn't matter. Yeah, and Lynn, I think that's a good thought. You say maybe that's what the monkeys were alarming at a little bit earlier. I would agree with you. I think that's probably precisely what they were shouting at a little bit earlier. Now, observe me trying to turn this boat around now. Somebody's coming through here. I think is a little odd. Let's just have a listen, everyone. He might pop out. No, that's Ephraim there, hoping to see something. I'm just going to ask them if they've seen him. Listen. There's a Franklin calling in here. Let's just wait here. Orbs, no luck, but there's a Franklin calling, alarm calling just in front of my vehicle to the right hand side in the drainage. Just watch there, everybody. Just watch where I'm pointing there. He might pop out there. It's worth waiting, I think. Yeah, can you hear that? Frack, 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 frack. Yeah, Raisa, I think it's a very interesting point you make. You said it's interesting that Mvula is in his territory, in his old territory. And, sorry, there's a radio is going crazy. And you say you guess he knows that Tingana is a long way south. I don't know if he knows that, but he certainly knows that the territory is quite empty at the moment. There's obviously no... You can hear birds calling there. There's obviously no territorial marking going on from the dominant male leopard of the area, so he'll feel safe here. What will be interesting, Raisa, though, is if he starts to mark territory again, if he starts to call at night, and he might. He looks in pretty good nick to me, but he's obviously taken a pasting, and that's why he's kind of gone unterritorial. The drongo's calling in there, very cross. Yeah, I think we should leave him, everyone. I think if he pops out into quarantine clearings, we might be lucky. Otherwise, let's go and see what else we can see as the night starts to fall on this. Just also slightly worry that I might damage its car. And apparently all of you want free Safari Live t-shirts. Well, everybody, I can give you the applications process and you can apply for a job and then you can get a free Safari Live t-shirt. Fortunately, you'll have to work with me, which will be very difficult, of course, because I'm not a nice man. Not so, David. Was your free t-shirt worth working with me? David says he's not sure if it was worth it or not. No, he sheepishly said, of course it was. Kirsten, of course, said, indeed. In other words, not worth the t-shirt. I'll tell you what, set yourself up for a fall here. People won't catch you, they'll push you off the cliff. He's definitely in there. I can hear those birds alarming, but these guys will see him if he comes out. We did get a nice view of him. But this, oh, you know what? We're in a bit of trouble. This car is now overheating. I think we've got more than just a steering problem. Kirsten, I'm afraid we're going to have to call this. I'm going to have to take this straight to the workshop. Everybody, It's been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. It's a high note to close on. I just noticed that the temperature is over the red. Terrifying. We're going to go home, try and fix the car for the morning, otherwise it might just be me on foot in the morning. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Kirsten. And the Chathaban in the final control. And a big thank you, of course, to Stefan and Herbert and Brian on the walk. We'll see you tomorrow at 06:30, either in a vehicle or not. Bye-bye.